Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to another edition of the Real Estate Investment Workshop. Here's an opportunity to learn about opportunities within the real estate sector if you want to build or want to enter in as a professional. as well. My name is Daniel Tete, and I'm glad to come your way with this month's edition. It's the October edition. As you know, we've had this series of workshops. If you are new here, we'd like to welcome you to the very first time joining us. I'd like to welcome you for this month's edition. This is a monthly real estate workshop we've had for 18 months plus since last year, and it's something we continue to do. We bring in thought leaders and influencers within the real estate sector to share their ideas, to share their thought leadership with us as budding influencers, or those of us that are interested in a career within the real estate or even getting into the real estate sector. This is an opportunity for you, as well as those who are new into building and construction and like to a few tips, and or you're frustrated with the system with rent and dealing with landlords and agents as well. This is an opportunity to learn more and ask the questions that might be bothering you. This is an opportunity to learn more about the opportunities within the real estate sector. And we have these live workshops and introduction to our planning as well as a component of it. We'll have that much later during the day. But for today, we'll have a panel discussion. I'll introduce the panel shortly to take us through the discussion for today. I'll introduce the moderator shortly, who will take us through what we do have lined up for today, as well as the speakers that we do have lined up for today. As we know, Ghana has quickly become a hotspot for real estate investments, and we've seen a lot of buildings and estates cropping up. And whether you are a local or a diaspora looking to invest within that sector or get into the sector, you're also hoping to connect with the right people to be able to secure your investment. So you're not scammed or you're not building, you get to know all the processes that you need to know from start to finish and getting into the real estate sector, or if you are interested in building as well. This is an opportunity for you to learn that as well. So would have time for questions as well. So do prepare your questions if you already have existing questions. I know as the conversation goes on, it may influence some of the questions that you may ask. So if you can keep them as well, and if you like to ask follow up based on the conversations that I had, then there'll be room for that as well. So for this month, we have two amazing speakers here. We have two amazing personalities here, and I'm sure they'll tell you more about themselves. What I'll do is to mention their name. We have Elizabeth Ashon, who's a partner at Energy and Infrastructure at Pencil, Encho and Letsa and Ankuma. We also have Ethel Bafo, who is a client manager at Every Scott. We'll also hear from our CEO in the person of Christine in team much later on during the session. To moderate this session, you have Mr. Ni Amaral, who is a program lead for the Real Estate Investment Workshop at the Intim Group. He'll be moderating this session as well. So we look forward to having this conversation with them as well. Before we dive into the conversation proper, we'll take a brief break to get our speakers ready and live on back. After a short recap video of our previous sessions, we'll dive into the discussion for this month. Welcome once again to the Real Estate Investment Workshop for October. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We'll now dive into the panel discussion. I would like to introduce our moderator in the person of New Ralph to take us through the panel discussion. I see our speakers are ready as well. So I'd like to cue in Elizabeth and Ethel as well to take us through this discussion. So welcome me to to this month's edition.
Good morning, Daniel. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm glad to moderate today's session for the real estate investment workshop. Okay, all right, to kickstart, good morning, everyone. I believe everyone can hear me loud and clear. Once again, I'm happy to moderate today's session of the real estate investment workshop. And today on my panel, I have Elizabeth Eshon and then Ethel. Wow. Hi, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great. I believe everyone can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yes.
Okay. I felt your camera, there's something blocking your camera a bit. Elizabeth.
Oh, really? Okay, let me check. Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay, whilst Elizabeth tried to fix her camera, Ethel, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
I'm fine, me. How are you? Yeah.
I'm also fine.
Hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. And thank you for making time to be on today's panel. Okay, I guess
Thank you.
we can drive in right away. While okay, Elizabeth is back. All right, great. Nice, it's far better. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. You're welcome, and I hope you are doing very well.
I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm also doing good. Thank you very much. And to kickstart, any of you can introduce yourself and what you do and how what you do has what you do, how did it bring you to this far? Yeah, to kickstart. Any of you?
Okay, well, good morning again, everybody. It's a pleasure to be on this panel today for this real estate investment workshop. As Nee has mentioned, my name's Elizabeth A. Shen. I'm a partner in the energy and infrastructure practice at Bentley and Shaw Litchen and Comma. I'm a dual qualified lawyer, so I initially qualified in England and Wales and practiced there for about 10 years. I specialised there in commercial property and infrastructure projects before qualifying in Ghana and practicing here again for another 10 years. So it's really great to be here. Glad to be part of the panel, engage with our audience and discuss the real estate sector. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Okay, that's all.
Hi everyone. Good morning once again. My name is Ethel Amwakobafo, but I love to be called Afrakuma. I am the client services manager. I'm the client services manager at Avery's Court. It's a real estate company. We are into property management, and we are into short-term and long-term. We do construction, we do decor as well. So I handle clients. I ensure that their needs are met. I ensure that issues are resolved. So I have a background in communications and PR. And if you go back to PR, client service manager in PR is like a client relations person. So I'm in the right place. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. And thank you for introducing yourself. And we are happy to have you all. Okay, so we're going to have a discussion about the real estate and how your role that you play in the industry will be of benefit to us. So to kickstart, Ethel, Afrakuma, sorry, I'm learning to mention that now too. Pardon me if I keep mentioning it. Okay. So, what is real estate client manager to you, and can you share your professional journey in the real estate, and how can one become client manager as well?
Okay, thank you once again. Okay, thank you once again. I don't know, your from your end it was breaking. I don't know if mine is okay.
Oh,
Not breaking. Okay,
can you hear me loud and clear?
So just as yes, I can hear you now. Okay. So just as I said in my introduction, so I am the client services manager at Avis Court, and my role is to ensure that the relationship between the client and the property owner is maintained. At the end of the day, it's a business relationship, and your goal is to ensure that the needs of both the property manager, the property owner, and the tenant, or the one who wants to stay in the place, are met in terms of ensuring that issues are resolved. Because of course, nobody would want to come and stay at a place where they are always having issues and nobody's attending to them. So my role is to ensure that that issue does not come in the first place. And if by chance it does, we ensure that that is met. So that is basically the role of a client service manager. And for my journey, so I started in communications. I have a first degree in journalism, and then another degree is also in PR. So like I said earlier, this role in PR is like a relations manager. So your role is to make sure that both parties, you establish that mutual beneficial relationships. So that is basically what the client service manager does in the real estate sector. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Afakuma. And Elizabeth, when we say property law, what does it mean, and how does it play a role in the real estate industry?
Thank you. Well, the property law or law governing real estate underpins how people deal with property acquisition, selling their property. So you need to have a legal and regulatory framework that governs how property transactions are undertaken. So in Ghana, that is the Land Act is the key property law that deals with all aspects of buying, acquiring land, registering land, all processes in connection with that. So that's governed by the Land Act in Ghana, Land Act 2020.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. But are there any restriction on real estate ownership in Ghana?
Yes, there are. Under the Constitution, no person, whether they are Ghanaian or a foreigner, can obtain a freehold interest in store land. And store land is land that is held by a chief or a skin on behalf of its community. Then also, if you are a foreigner who wants to acquire land in Ghana, there is no ability to acquire a freehold land at all. So if you're a foreigner, you're entitled to a maximum of a 50-year lease at any one time. So if you are a non-Ghanaian in Ghana and you want to acquire land, and a seller is purporting to grant you more than a 50-year lease, that interest will be void. So non-Ghanaian is only entitled to a maximum of a 50-year leasehold interest at any one time. Those are the key restrictions in terms of ownership of land in Ghana.
Okay, so if it happens that I was born in the state and I don't have a Ghana nationality, but my parent happens to be Ghanaians, and I was born in the state. What does the laws in Ghana consider me to be? Can I own it?
You would need to apply for Ghanaian citizenship by virtue of your parentage. Once you have that, then you are considered a Ghanaian citizen. And so the ownership rights applicable to a Ghanaian would then apply to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We will go back to Afrakuma. So, Afrakuma, you did mention some few things about client manager. I also want to find out from you, how do you effectively identify and prioritize the unique needs of each and every client in diverse market?
Okay, thank you once again. So I think the first thing you have to do is active listening. When you actively listening to the needs
Afrakuma,
of the...
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You are not in the
Hello?
middle of your camera. That was why I wanted to notify you.
Okay, sure. All right. So the first thing, is it better?
Yes, it's a bit better. Great, it's better now.
Yeah, sure. So I said that the first thing is active listening. You need to be an active listener to be a client services manager. So in order to identify and prioritize their unique needs, the first thing you have to do is listen to the needs of the client. What does the person want? Because if you don't and you have to go back to the client, oh, you said you wanted this and this, what did you say again?
So
building trust.
Come again?
Can you hear me? I think
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. So I'm saying that the first thing is to listen actively. You listen to understand their needs. So once you listen to them, the word is actively listening. So that's I'm saying that if you don't listen and you go back to them, it kind of breach trust. So first you have to actively listen, then you understand their needs. Once you listen, you get to understand their needs, what they want, what they are asking for. Then you personalize the communication. So, hello, you mentioned the name, thank you. You said you wanted this and this, and this is what you got. So when you personalize their needs, you get to know their priorities. So that will give you information on what exactly the persons want. And once you are able to do that, you can tailor the solution. So one is actively understanding, and that will help you. So actively listening, and that will help you to understand their needs. Once you understand their needs, you personalize the communication. Then you get to know their priorities, what they want. Then you are able to tailor solutions. So these are the ways I use to ensure that I prioritize, and I meet the unique needs of each client.
Okay, but then at what point, as a client, at what point do I need, or do you think it's necessary for me to meet a client manager? Because I feel like if I want to buy a property or I want to rent a property, I can just walk in and be like, I want to rent a property. Do you have A, B, C, D property? They say yes, then I pay and they give it to me. Do I really need a property client manager to do all this?
Yeah, you do. Especially for those who don't really understand issues when it comes to renting or buying a property. You can't just walk in and who are you going to buy from? You deal with agents. If you don't deal with agents, you deal with a real estate organization. And client managers or real estate agents will help you to really understand what you want. So if it's a 1-bedroom, if it's a 2-bedroom, what are you using it for? Is it for personal use? Do you want to commercialize it? Whatever it is, the client person will help you to understand all these. Locations are also important. So if you probably want to commercialize your property for the diaspora community, you can't go to a place like Ablekuma, or you can't go to Pokuase, because once they get here, they want places that are convenient for them, closer to the airport, closer to places that they can have fun, closer to places that are in town. So if you don't really understand all these things and you want to invest in the real estate space, then you might, at the end of the day, invest wrongly. So this is why it's important to really speak to a client service manager or a real estate agent.
Okay, thank you very much, Afrakuma. Elizabeth, you mentioned of people in diaspora coming to Ghana to buy lands and other stuff. What are the due diligence that one has to do or conduct typically in the real estate transaction?
Yes, due diligence is so important for every property transaction. You need to ensure that the property you're buying is from the person that's purporting to sell the property to you, and you will also be able to use the property for your required use. So first search has to be at the Lands Commission. And the Lands Commission is the body that's mandated to manage public lands. They formulate national policies, and they also register instruments and interests affecting land. So you need to do a search at the Lands Commission. You can either use a site plan, or you can search against a land certificate if the property was already registered. So the purpose of doing a search of the Lands Commission is to ensure that, to check to see if the property is registered, if it's registered in the name of the person that's proposing to sell the land to you, and also to check to see whether or not there are any encumbrances affecting the property. To say, for example, if there are any charges or mortgages affecting the property that have been granted in favour of a finance company, or whether there are any third-party notices affecting the land, where perhaps a third party believes they have a claim relating to the land. There can also be notices of any third-party claims, and litigation judgments can also be registered at the Lands Commission. So it is so important to do a search at the Lands Commission to check for those things. Also, if the land is government land, i.e. it's land that's owned by government, then it's important also to do a ground rent search, and that search will let you know whether or not the person selling the land has paid the necessary ground rent under the lease that perhaps may be assigned or will be sublet. So it's important to do a ground rent search. If the land is store land, then it's important to do a ground rent search at the Office of the Administrator of Store Lands. They manage the store lands, and so it's important to do searches there to check to see if any ground rent that's indicated in the lease has been paid, because that ground rent would be paid to the Office of the Administrator of Store Lands. It's also important to do searches at the courts, so that you can check to see whether the seller of the land is involved in any litigation, whether as a plaintiff or as a defendant, and just to check to see whether there are any issues in court affecting the land that's intending to be purchased. It's also important to do a search at the relevant assembly where the property is located to see if there are any outstanding property rates. All property owners are required to pay property rates, and if there are any outstanding property rates, the relevant local authority can actually exercise its right to sell the property in order to defray the outstanding property rate. So it's very important to check to see if there are any outstanding property rates on the property. Also, zoning, it's important to check to see what the land is zoned for. So if, for example, you buy land and it's residential use, but you want it for commercial use, you need to check to see whether the land has been zoned for a mixed use purpose that will allow you to also use the land for commercial use. So it's important to do a search at the relevant assembly to see whether or not the land is appropriately zoned for your required use. Now, of course, you must check the title documents. The title documents may indicate any restrictive covenants that will affect your intended use of the property. So, for example, as I said, perhaps if you want to use the property for commercial use, but the lease indicates that it can only be used for residential use, then you'll need to apply to the landlord to be able to use the land for a different use. Also, normally the lease will provide a restriction that if you want to sell or sublet or mortgage the property, that you may need to get prior consent from the landlord to do so. So it's important that, of course, you check the title document of the land that you're intending to purchase to see if there are any adverse interest or restrictive covenants that need to be dealt with before you complete the property. Also, you want to make sure that there are no environmental issues affecting your property. If there are any environmental issues, particularly if you're going to be developing the land, you want to ensure that there are no environmental issues. So you should do a search at the Environmental Protection Agency. Obviously, you should also conduct your own soil and geotechnical investigations on the land. But if, for example, there is a commercial building already on the site, there should be an environmental permit that should be handed over to you. So you will check with the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, to check that perhaps the current environmental permit, all the conditions have been complied with. There are no non-compliance issues that should be dealt with. I would also, so other key searches that you need to do, for example, if the company is a seller, it's important to do a search at the Office of the Registrar of Companies against the seller. You can do a search to find out, who the current directors are, the current shareholders, to see whether or not any insolvency proceedings have commenced against the company, and generally to check to see whether the company is in good standing. And also if the company may have registered any charges or mortgages over the land, a search at the Office of Registrar of Companies should indicate that. Also, you can do a search at the Collateral Registry, again, to see if any security has been registered against the seller over the property that you're thinking of buying. There are so many aspects of due diligence that needs to be undertaken, and it's just important that a person, whether they're Ghanaian or a foreigner, takes legal advice, appropriate legal advice, so that a lawyer can do a full, thorough due diligence on the land before a purchaser purchases the property. Now, generally speaking, if you have time and the seller is, not in discussions with third parties, then perhaps the purchaser will have the freedom and the time to do all this due diligence before they make an offer. However, if the purchaser wants to, very keen on purchasing the property, they want to tie in the seller to sell the property to them, then it's a good idea for a purchaser to enter into a sale and purchase agreement with the seller, and then you can detail conditions that need to be satisfied before the contract becomes unconditional. And one of those conditions should certainly be ensuring that a satisfactory due diligence has been undertaken and there are no adverse issues that will affect the purchaser's intended use of the property. I think those are the key due diligence issues that should be considered. There are more, depending on the sector perhaps that a purchaser may be operating in, but generally the searches that I've indicated are the key ones that should be considered.
All right, thank you very much, Elizabeth. But then with the other point that you mentioned, at what point does a property lawyer comes in? Do I wait to finish all this process before I call in the property lawyer, or once I tend to buy a property, I then, because of the due diligence and other stuff, that is when I have to bring in the property lawyer?
It's important to engage a property lawyer right at the outset of a transaction. Okay. So when you've seen land that you're interested in buying, you should engage a property lawyer. You may think that, you have the capacity to, review documents and do searches by yourself, which you can do. But in our country of Ghana, there are always issues. The property acquisition process is not straightforward. So I would always recommend that you instruct a qualified lawyer at the outset of your transaction to help you throughout the whole process of your acquisition process. And please note that only a lawyer can actually draft a legal conveyance document for it to be valid and registrable at the Lands Commission. An indenture needs to actually bear the stamp of the law firm or the lawyer that's prepared the document. So it's important that you engage a qualified law firm or lawyer to assist you with your property acquisition.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Afakuma, so back to you. In our conversation, you mentioned how client manager react to various clients. What about the landlord? How does a landlord need, or someone who is selling the property, or renting it out, does he or she also needs the service of a client manager as well?
Okay, so I want to turn the conversation to property management because it's in line. Yes.
Okay, all right.
So after the due diligence has been done, just like lawyer has said, you bought your property. You have your property now. You want to go into real estate investment. The property is there. This is where you need the services of a property manager. Right. That is what the property manager can see. Because let's say you're a very busy person, but you really want to invest, you want to invest in real estate, but you don't have the time. It could be a side thing you are doing. So you don't have the time to come and look for clients, you don't have the time to maintain the property, you don't have the time to do a lot of things. This is where you need the property manager, or you need somebody to come in and manage your property for you. And what would the property manager do for you? He will ensure that your daily administration is taken care of. So you are working with in team group, you have another property. You have a property, let's say in East Legon. You want to use this for short-term and long-term rental. You don't have the time to go around or be marketing your property to look for tenants to come and stay in. This is where you bring the job to us at every score.
I think we lost Afakuma a bit. Okay, all right. We lost Afakuma a bit, so we will then continue with Elizabeth. You just mentioned. Oh, she's back. Hi. We lost you a bit. Okay.
I don't know, my network. Can I try doing without video and see? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, yeah. So just as I was saying, yes, so say at almost point that the property manager or the client service person comes in. So I'm saying that after the investment has been made, like I was using you as an example, you don't have the time, but you also want to go into real estate investment. So that is where we come in to play that role. We take all the administrative activities, dispute resolution, because one of the issues that arise in property management, in client services management is issues, because the person might go to the property, or this is not working, I don't like this, probably you're in the office. You don't have time to attend to all these problems and solve it ASAP, because once they are telling you what the problem, you need to solve it at that moment. So that is where you need somebody like us who would ensure that all these things have been done. Then for property maintenance too, you will need a property manager or a client service manager, how we want to put it, for property maintenance. Because you don't want to invest in a property and in the next 6 months, 5 months, 1 year, and you go to the property, you can't even stay in it, or somebody cannot stay in the property. That will be like your investment is going down the drain. So the property manager will come in to ensure that there is that property maintenance, rent collection, and lease management. You don't have the time to be chasing. Oh, you said 1 year. 1 year is due. You need to, if you want to stay, you need to renew. Or if you are doing short term, the person comes to stay for 6 days. You can't come in and chase or come and pay. Go, no, that would be a lot of headache. So you leave that headache to us. For the lease management, coordination between the tenants, managing all aspects of the agreements, that's where the legal bit also comes in. So you also have to make sure that everybody is in tune. Then advising on property insurance too, it's the work of the property manager. Reporting the financial management, because at the end of the month, if you are doing short term, you need to ensure that whatever amount was accumulated within that period is being reported to the property owner. You might not have the time to go through all these stress. That is also done. The property person also provide banking services as well. So our end here, I think we have more questions on property management responsibilities. So we'll continue from that. So these are some of the reasons you need a property manager in the process of investment.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Afakuma. Elizabeth, you did mention about some of the due diligences that one has to do when acquiring a land. So what is the process for the registration here in Ghana as a Ghanaian, and then people from the diaspora as well?
Yes, so as I mentioned before, the Lands Commission is the body where that you would need to register your property, and there are land commissions in all regions of Ghana. So once you've gone through the process, as I said, either you have gone straight to purchase your property, hopefully you've done all the necessary due diligence, or you have entered into a sale and purchase agreement first before you've completed the property, ensuring that all your conditions precedent have been satisfied. So let's assume that you've gone through the process, you've gone through the due diligence process, you're happy, and you're now going to register your property. That will be at the Lands Commission. And before you can register your property at the Lands Commission, you need to stamp the property first. You need to stamp the property title document with stamp duty. So unless the appropriate stamp duty has been paid, which is generally 1% of the value of the property, you cannot use that title document for any purpose. It's not a legally valid document, and you would not, for example, be able to use it in court proceedings unless it's criminal proceedings. So you need to ensure that your lease is stamped with the appropriate stamp duty. Then you would then proceed to the stamping is at the Land Valuation Division. Then you'd proceed to the Land Registration Division. Now, depending on where your property is located, your property may be in a registration district or a non-registration district. A registration district, they are Accra, Tema, parts of Kumasi, and Winneba. So all land within a registration district must be registered at the Lands Commission. Land that is not within the land registration districts are in lands called a non-registration district. Still, your property should be registered, but the type of title and interest that you get is different. So in a land registration district, which as I said is Accra, Tema, parts of Kumasi, and parts of Winneba, subject to fraud or where there is a notice of an equitable interest, once your land is registered, you'll be issued with a land certificate, and that land certificate will grant a person an indefeasible title in their premises. So therefore, you will have full rights. You'll be a registered legal proprietor of that property. That's in a title registration district. If it's in a non-registration district, the necessity of registration is still required, but you will not be given a title to the property. But the purpose of registration is for actual notice of the lease to all persons from the date of registration. So whether your property is located in a registration district or a non-registration district, it is important that your property is registered, because until such time as your property is registered, you have an equitable interest. You will only get a legal interest once your property is registered at the Lands Commission. So it is so important to make sure that you register your property at the Lands Commission. The process varies depending on where the land is located, but unfortunately, the Lands Commission, it's a manual registry, unlike land registries in other parts of the world. So you may find that your registration can take anything from 6 months to 2 years or more, because there are a lot of stages in the registration process. So generally speaking, in terms of the internal processes of the Lands Commission, I mean, once you have stamped your document and you've submitted your application, then the Lands Commission will do an internal search to check to see if there are any conflicting interests affecting your property. They will also do an inspection of the property, because there are 3 key units within the Lands Commission. You have the Public Invested Land Management Division that deals with public invested lands. Then you have the Survey and Mapping Division, which deals with plotting your property in the land, in the records of the Lands Commission. Then once that stage has been processed, then you actually have your document registered in the registry at the Land Registration Division. So the registration process has to go through the various phases, and it can take time. And there is frustration with that. And I know the Lands Commission is trying to digitize a lot of land title records that they're holding, and also digitize the process, so make some of the process electronic. So currently in Accra, you can actually submit searches online at the Lands Commission, but you'd have to follow up online. It will kind of indicate which stage your file has reached, but then you would also have to go to the Lands Commission in person to follow up as well. So the registration process, unfortunately, is not very straightforward in Ghana, but providing that you have a good lawyer that can assist you through the process, it does take time, but the registration will happen.
All right. Thank you very much. Talk of it's taking time. Doesn't it affect the price of the property I want to buy at the long run?
Well, I mean, you negotiate your purchase price at the outset. Generally speaking, I think people who are coming to do business in Ghana, and let's say even financiers, they're aware of the registration process in Ghana. So I would say, generally speaking, if your land is in a registration district and it has already been registered, you're more likely to find that the value of the land is higher. If it's in a non-registration district, because of the issues associated with that, perhaps the land value may be lower. But generally speaking, once you've negotiated the value of your land based on the market value of the land, the registration process is a perfection issue. It's dealt with at the end of the transaction. So generally speaking, it shouldn't really affect so much the value of the property, but you should be concerned with where the property is located, whether the land has been registered, so that you have more comfort that there are less possible issues that can arise with a property that has not already been registered.
Okay. With that said, what will be your recommendation as a property lawyer? What will be your recommendation in terms of me buying a property? Will you encourage me to buy a property that has already been registered, or those that are not registered?
Well, absolutely. If you can buy a property that has already been registered, a lot of the stress that you would encounter if the property wasn't registered would obviously be minimized. So where possible, you should try and get a property that has already been registered. But a lot of people do not register their land, and they could have land that has been held within their family for years and has never been registered. And it's normally the case that perhaps when somebody wants to deal with the land, i.e. they want to sell it, or they perhaps want to get a charge over it, that's when perhaps that may prompt somebody to register the land. But as I said, in a registration district, land should be registered, but many people do not register it. So if you're doing a search, for example, at the Lands Commission, and your land hasn't been registered, you still need to make other inquiries, whether it's you're going on site to check to see, who's actually on site. You need to make inquiries with neighbors to see if there are any competing claims, to see if there are any squatters on the land. So as well as doing your searches at the Lands Commission, particularly if your land is not registered, you need to make sure that you go on site and make necessary searches with your neighbors, check to see what's actually happening on the ground to minimize any risk in your acquisition process.
Thank you very much. Afrakuma, back to you. What is the why is property management so? Okay, I think you've answered that relating to the landlords. Why the landlord?
I missed you.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Please come again. I missed. Yeah.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you now.
How does property manager helps in maintaining the value of a property?
Okay, sure. Thank you very much. So, ways property managers help in maintaining value of the property is one, through regular maintenance. So, we have something we call walkthrough. So, if you are managing your property for you, we set days, probably 2 days in a week, 3 days in a week, sometimes every day, sometimes once a month, to schedule to do walkthroughs. So the walkthrough will help the property manager identify any issue. So the aim is to ensure that you solve the problem as soon as possible before it escalates. So if probably it's a little leakage with the AC, you call the AC person to come and solve it before by the time you realize AC is not working anymore. If it has to do with some electrical issues in the room, you identify as soon as possible, get it done. If it's the bed sort of breaking, you identify it. If there are molds in the fridge or any part of the room, you identify it. So they help to ensure that there is regular maintenance. So that maintenance will make sure that your property is in good state. Because the thing is, you are not investing in properties to go down the drain. No, you are investing to make money out of it. So that regular maintenance being done by property manager will help that. Timely repairs. So once we find the issue, we are not repairing it next month. We are repairing it now. That is also being done by the property manager. We also ensure high tenant satisfaction. So let's say if you are running a short-term rental, short-term, you want people to come back. So we develop that relationship with the tenant to make sure that they have that satisfaction. They are okay. We want to give them the home away from home experience so that when they come to use your property, they will go back and come back again. Or they'll go and tell somebody, I stayed at this place for a week. I stayed at this place for a month. I like their services. Come to this place. So the property manager will also help you to ensure that there's that high tenant satisfaction and there's that high comeback rate. And it also help you to maintain your property value. So all these at the end of the day will make sure that there is that value for your property. The property manager will also address issues promptly. If it's issues with the client, probably he or she came to the room, he's not happy about a particular service. The property manager is there to ensure that that issue is addressed to prevent larger problems. Because you're marketing your place too. So if probably the person comes to use your place and go to social media. I went to use this place and I saw this, I saw this. It's at the end of the day giving you a bad review. So I was on a platform where somebody rented a place for a short stay and the place is not being managed well. So she came back to the group to tell all of us about the poor service she got from the place. And she gave us the name of the place. So let's say you are running short term for your rental, for your investment property. I won't go and use the place. And all there are about 200 people on that page, nobody is going to use the place. It means at the end of the day, you are losing money. So this is somebody who is very busy and cannot take care of the property. So if somebody comes and go, there is no proper checkout, and we have something that we call checkout. So if a client comes to stay in your place, so somebody can also come to stay in your place. It's not your fault. They might use your chair and break it. They might destroy something in the room. So if you have a property manager, the person will ensure that before somebody even checks out, before your client comes in, we do something we call checking. So we walk you through the property to know what is there, what is intact, everything that is in the room. So at the end of the day, if you are checking you out and something is broken, before you came in, the thing is not broken, we'll ensure that that damage, either you will pay for that damage if it's caused by you. So if you have a property manager in place or for your property, the property manager will ensure all these, and at the end of the day, it's for property value. So basically, these are some of the value the property manager, if you have a property manager, they help in your property.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Fakuma. Elizabeth, once again, what is the legal what legal considerations should foreign investors keep in mind when acquiring property in Ghana, and how can they navigate the regulatory landscape in Ghana?
I think in terms of the due diligence, it goes across the board, whether you're Ghanaian or you're a foreigner. It's important that all the issues that I discussed earlier is undertaken. Okay, so you need to do thorough due diligence on the land. I also mentioned previously that a non-Ghanaian is only entitled to a leasehold interest in the land, so they must bear that in mind. The maximum that a non-Ghanaian citizen may obtain in terms of ownership of land, as I said, is 50 years at any given time. Now, that is, of course, subject to renewal. However, in the instance of non-Ghanaian, there's no express right for a renewal in the Land Act. So it's important that when a foreigner is acquiring a lease, they check to see whether or not there is an express right for an option to renew the lease in the lease. If not, it's important to try and negotiate that in. Generally speaking, even at the end of the term, parties are free and are able to negotiate a renewal lease. It is better if there is an option contained within the lease, because under the Land Act, there's no express provision for a foreigner to obtain a renewal lease. And it's also important to ensure that, depending on the type of land that's being acquired, this cuts across both for non-Ghanaians and Ghanaians, that appropriate consent is obtained from the superior lessor. So if the land is government land, then it'll be necessary to obtain consent from the Lands Commission. If the land is school land, it's important to obtain consent from the chief and the principal elders of that community need to provide consent. If it is a family land, then it's important to obtain consent from the principal elders of the family. And also, I would just go back, if it's stool land as well, it's important that Lands Commission consent is also required for any disposition of stool land. Now, in terms of, who is considered a Ghanaian citizen, we know that. But in terms of a non-Ghanaian, if you're an individual, that's fine. But if you're a company, a company which has more than 40% shareholding is considered a non-Ghanaian citizen. So please bear that in mind. If, for example, a foreign company is coming into Ghana and they're entering into a joint venture arrangement with a Ghanaian company, that company will still be considered a foreign company if the shareholding is more than 40%. So in terms of a foreign investor coming into Ghana, it's important that they obtain, good counsel from a law firm or a lawyer to guide them throughout the whole process. Depending on the nature of their project, they need to instruct appropriate professionals to give them advice so that they can navigate the regulatory landscape in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. But then one last question before we move to Afrakuma. Are there any government incentive for players in the real estate sector?
There are a few. Good thing is that real estate is a priority sector for government. So the Ghana Investment Promotion Centre has designated key priority sectors, and real estate property development is one. So under the Exemptions Act 2022, GIPC, the Ghana Investment Promotion Centre, they listed priority sectors. So if you're an investor coming into Ghana and you want to operate in the real estate sector, it may be possible for you to obtain exemptions for perhaps custom duties and taxes, or VAT, certain domestic taxes. But you would need to make an application to the Ghana Investment Promotion Centre. They will liaise with the Ministry of Finance, provided that approval is given. Then GIPC will be able to negotiate with an investor to negotiate, exemptions. Obviously, the investor in its application would have to kind of specify the type of exemptions that it's looking for, and also indicate what the overall project cost is. And the GIPC will need to consider that. And there's also a provision that if, for example, the exemptions are granted to a real estate investor, government may wish to take equity in the project, commensurate with the exemptions that have been granted to the investor. So that's also something to think about. So if you're coming into the real estate sector, specifically if you're kind of also doing it on a large scale, you should contact the GIPC, see if there are potential exemptions that are available, submit an application, and then do a negotiation with GIPC pursuant to the Exemptions Act to see if you will be able to get tax exemptions, essentially. If you are also focusing on low-cost housing, which is, it's critical in Ghana, it is possible to get a tax holiday for the first 5 years. So a company ordinarily would pay corporate income tax at a rate of 25%. But if you're registered with the government to undertake low-cost housing, then for the first 5 years, you'll be entitled to pay corporate income tax at a rate of 1%. Also, in terms of capital gains tax, there's an exemption from capital gains tax if you're into residential property development. You can be exempted from paying capital gains if, for example, you sell a residential property, provided that you reinvest those proceeds into purchasing another property within 1 year, then you'll be entitled to exemption from capital gains tax. And that's a good thing for investors because it allows investors to realize the full upside on property appreciation without paying capital gains tax on the sale of property. Those are the, I would say, incentives that are available for players in the real estate sector. But government, affordable housing in particular, is a critical issue in Ghana. And government just doesn't have the money to be able to kind of bridge the deficit in terms of the affordable housing. So you will find that Ministry of Works and Housing, they are trying to put together proposals and packages for investors who want to come in the affordable housing space, to attract investors into the space, so that as well as making profit ultimately, because that's what investors want to come in to do and make profit when they are investing in properties and undertaking real estate projects, but also assisting with the country to kind of bridge the housing deficit that we currently have. So definitely for investors, initially you may think low cost housing, affordable housing, you may not reap the rewards that you would probably get on high end or housing for the middle class or the luxury side of the market. Definitely watch the affordable housing space because government is trying to implement packages and programs designated for this space in the market.
All right, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Afakuma, so we just have some few minutes that we're done. This is going to be the last round of questions, and then we will come to that end. So, Afakuma, on a daily basis, what is the actual role of the property manager on a daily basis?
Okay, so like I said earlier, there's that condition of repairs. So if I probably come to the property and I come to do my work field, there's some damages. I would chase after the painters, the carpenters, and all the service providers. So you wouldn't have the time to do that. So if you leave that to me, my role is to ensure when I go to the property and there are damages, I will ensure that that damage is also done, and then that will also ensure maintaining of your property. I also market your property for you. So I don't just go to maintain your property, but then market your property for you. So for us at Avery Scores, we put your property on Airbnb, we put your property on Booking.com, put your property on our website, and we put your property on our social media platform. we share within our agents network. So part of my duty, my day-to-day activities also ensure that there's that marketing of your product. We also ensure that there is reconciliation of bookings. So if this week you had about 10 bookings, 20 bookings, if you are doing short term, then you have to ensure that whatever money comes in reconciles with whatever bookings you got, depending on how much you are charging per night or per month. So that's reconciliation is also done. That's also communication between the tenants. We communicate with your clients, your tenants all the time. So you always ensure that if you are getting somebody checking in your apartment, we will call the person. The person will call us in terms of probably he doesn't have access to the location. I am the one who the person will call. If the person has access, has any issue in the apartment, I am the one who will call. So we take that burden off your head. Imagine you are busy doing something else and the client will call you, my water is not flowing, the fridge is not working, this is not working. That is going to be a lot of stress on you. So that is something we do, communicating with, ensuring that effective communicating with the client, and also paying off rents. So if let's say the person is taking it for long term, doing 6 months, 3 months, the person is done and wants to continue, it's my role to ensure that that money is taken. So you don't have to. The only thing the property manager, if you have a property manager, the only thing you should be worried about is your money at the end of either the month, at the end of the week, at the end of 3 months or whatever. So we ensure that payment is done. We ensure that issues are resolved. So, and then we also ensure that there's that customer care, because we want, for us at a resort, is we are customer centric. Because if we are handling your property for you, we want more people to come to your property. So our being customer centric is that we ensure that there's that customer satisfaction. We ensure that the tenant is okay. So if I have a client in your apartment, I'll make sure that I'm always in touch with the person. Are you okay? Do you need something? Is everything fine with you? So that is, if I have to take you through my day-to-day activities as a client manager, that is what we do.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
So basically, that's what we do.
Okay. But when you were mentioning of you putting our properties on your website and things, is it free? But I didn't hear you mention any amount.
No. Okay, so if I'm managing your property for you, of course, I'm doing all the job. So it's
At
not
a cost.
free. So if you have to
Okay.
put it at a cost. I don't know if you want me to go through at a cost. So if you are managing your property for you, let's say you are running a short term. So you have an apartment at East Legon, you want to run a short term. Short term is basically somebody coming to stay your apartment from, let's say, 2 nights, 3 nights, for less than a month. Yes, so that is short term. So if you are managing it for you and we are putting it on third-party platform like Airbnb and Booking.com, Airbnb has a charge of 15%. So if Airbnb gets a client for you from their platform, they charge you a 15% of the booking you get. So let's say you had 3 nights booking from Airbnb. They're going to charge you 15% from that 3 nights. That is from Airbnb. And for me handling your client, getting you the client, because I am marketing your investment property for you. So if the client comes through Airbnb and comes through me to you, there's that commission, 8% commission you give to every score for getting you that client through our means. So if it's from Airbnb, 15%, then 8% comes to us. If I'm getting the direct client for you, then I'm taking 12%. If I'm getting direct client, then it's shared on all my platforms. Yes. And at the end of the month, we also take a nightly rate. So if your nightly rate is $100 per night, $80 per night. For me, going through all the stress of checking in your clients, resolving their issues and everything, you pay us 1 month equivalent at the end of the month. So if it's $80 you take for your unit, it's just 1 month that comes to us, which is like $80.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Fakuma. Elizabeth, this I think this is the last question also. So what are the current legal framework government covering land acquisition for public projects in Ghana, and how can property owner ensure fair compensation in the event of compulsory acquisition?
Sure. So the right to compulsorily acquire land is set out in the Constitution. The state can only acquire land in certain circumstances, and these include perhaps if the land is required in the interest of defence or public safety, public order, public health, for town and country planning purposes, or generally in order to promote the public benefit. The state can acquire the land, but there also has to be a clear and reasonable justification for causing the hardship that will ultimately occur to the person whose land is being compulsorily acquired. Now, the process for compulsory acquiring land is set out in the Land Act 2020, as I previously mentioned, and there has to be fair and adequate compensation, and the Land Act also provides for a right of access to the High Court in the event that somebody is aggrieved by the termination of the compensation that's payable and the compulsory acquisition of their land. So where there is a compulsory acquisition, the state also has to resettle the displaced inhabitants on suitable alternative land, taking into account the economic well-being and social and cultural values of the person that's affected. And the land that is acquired, it has to be used for the purpose for which it was acquired for. So if ultimately a government entity decides, for example, that they want to use a land to build a hospital, and they acquire the land for that purpose, and they don't actually use the land for that purpose, then the owner of the property that the land was acquired from, they basically have the first option of acquiring the property back from the relevant government entity. So, as I said, there's specific purposes that are set out in the Constitution as to the instances by when the state can acquire land. There has to be fair and adequate compensation, and the process by which a government entity acquires the land is also set out in the Land Act. And so there has to be a publication of an executive instrument that has to specify the nature, extent, and location of the land that's sought to be acquired, and also the purpose of the acquisition. And the executive instrument has to be served personally on the person that has the interest in the land, or left perhaps with a person who's in occupation of the land. It should also be served on the traditional authority of the area in which the land is located. It should also be, the executive instrument should also be placed on the wall, if there's a wall of the land, or somewhere visible close to the land, so that everybody can see that the land is intended to be compulsorily acquired. It should also be served on the district assembly within the jurisdiction in which the land is located. It has to also be published on 3 consecutive occasions in a newspaper that's kind of circulated within the jurisdiction of where the land is, and also published on a local radio station within the area where the land is located. If possible, it should be in English, but also be in the local dialect of where the land is located. In terms of assessment of compensation, if somebody believes that they have an interest in land that's being affected by the proposed compulsory acquisition, they have 6 months, strict timeline, 6 months in order to submit a claim to the Lands Commission. And that claim has to set out the particulars of their claim and their interest in the land, also how their land is going to be affected by the compulsory acquisition, and the amount of compensation that they think they want to claim, and the basis for the calculation. Now, I would recommend that anybody who is affected by a proposed compulsory acquisition engages a valuer to assist them to value their claim. In terms from the Lands Commission side, it will be the Land Valuation Division of the Lands Commission that will assess the amount of compensation that is payable, and consideration will be given to the market value of the land at the date that the executive instrument was published, any improvement perhaps that the person who owns the land has made on the land, any damage, that's likely to be sustained because of the compulsory acquisition. Obviously, the person will need to be relocated, so that will need to be taken into account. And the resettlement and finding alternative suitable land will also be taken into account. So as I said, I mean, it will be the Land Valuation Division of the Lands Commission that will ultimately assess and provide the indication of what the compensation amount should be. But I would definitely recommend that somebody who has land that's subject to compulsory acquisition should engage their own valuer as well to get an independent valuation, so that when they're having discussions with the Lands Commission, they have a starting point by which they can undertake that negotiation with the Land Valuation Division. So as I said, the process for compulsory acquisition is contained in the Land Act.
All right. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Yeah. I think this will be the last question, and then we'll be done for the day. We'll take our last round of questions as well. Then we'll be done for the day. I recommend looking at your skills and your knowledge. What advice would you give to someone who maybe just step out? He or she is also in a different industry, but looking forward to be a property manager or client service manager. What are the skills you think the person might have that will bring about his or her success in the real estate industry?
Okay, so first of all, I think communication is key. Communication skills. You should be able to communicate effectively, because it's in managing people, let's say managing people in general, it's about how effectively you communicate with them, how you are able to resolve issues when they arise. So sometimes the person might be angry, but because of how you speak to the person will just be calm, right? So one, it's communication skills. You need to, and in this space, you learn how to use please so many times. Even if you don't know how to use the word please, you have to kind of grow that habit of using the word please. Because once the person finds issue with your property or where the person is staying, and there's this, the light is off, water is not flowing, or you need to learn how to use please. You are sorry, you're so sorry for this. You're going to resolve it as soon as possible. And procrastination is, if you're somebody that procrastinates a lot, then sorry, you can't be in this space. You have to learn how to act swiftly. So if the issue just happened, you need to act immediately. Transparency is also very important. If you can't solve the issue now, or if whatever it is cannot be resolved now, you let the person know that we've spoken to the right person. It will be resolved in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So don't say you are resolving it in the next 1 minute when you know that whatever it is will be resolved in 10 minutes. So communication and transparency, like I said, you have to be an active listener. So you don't want the person to has finished saying everything they want to say, then you ask, what did you say again? No. You have to be an active listener. Like whatever it says that is what you need to put that aside. And especially when you're having a phone conversation with a person, you need to understand. And then you need to also know the real estate space. You need to understand the market trends. You need to understand the legal issues. Even if you're not a lawyer, you need to understand all these legal issues. That is also very important. And you always have to be reading, like stay up with market trends. That is one thing about real estate, so that you'll be able to advise when it's time to advise. Yes. And then know how to build cordial relationships as well. So if you're somebody that's like frowning, then no, you have to learn how to be smiling all the time, building very beneficial relationships. Yes, so basically these are some of the skills that somebody has to acquire to be in the space. And constant learning. I mean, life is always about learning. So once you don't have all this, you can be in it while you're learning all the time. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And so this is the last question for the day. Your final key takeaways that you can share with our audience. And also, while doing that, you also tell us a bit about your company that you work with. What are the services that you provide, and how best can we contact you as an individual or the company?
Okay.
So, any of you can share.
Okay, so the name of my company is Avery's Court. We are a real estate company. We're into property management. We do short-term and long-term. We're into construction. We are into renovation, and therefore for our construction, we don't deal with land. So once you have bought your land, done all the due diligence and everything, that is where we come in and build the property for you. One thing that sets us apart is our attention to detail, and we are customer centric. So we do a lot of interior designs. Probably you bought a property, and it's vague, you don't know what to do with it, and you want to use it for short term and long term. We can help you with very luxurious, beautiful, budget friendly interior designs. So you can look for us on social media, Avery's Court. Go to Instagram, Avery's Court. You find us. We have very beautiful interior designs. We can help you with that. We help you manage your properties as well. So you have a property, you've done everything, you don't have the time to take care of it. That is where we come in. So we are exhibiting at Micasa's Home and Property Fair from the 2nd to 3rd November next month at the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel. So we are providing free consultation. So if you're somebody and you want to enter into the real estate space, you bought your property after the investment, you don't know what to do, you come to us. We're going to give you free consultation on everything you need to know when it comes to short term, when it comes to long term, when it comes to property management, when it comes to interior decor and all that. We also need to service offices. So we provide service offices as well. So you need a space to work. You come in, you just come in with your bag and your documents. We have everything here for you. Very comfortable. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Afrakuma. Elizabeth, your final words for the audience, and then what you do and where you work. So what also can the services your company provide, and how can we reach you as an individual or the company?
Sure, thank you. So due diligence, I can't reiterate it enough. It's important whenever you want to acquire property in Ghana. Please ensure that you consult with a lawyer, a law firm, right at the outset of your transaction. Please don't wait for issues to come up, disputes to arise before you engage a good law firm. In terms of our firm, as I said, my firm is Bentiential, Lepton and Kumar. We are a full service law firm providing corporate commercial services. We're one of the largest law firms in Ghana, and we have 4 teams. So as I said, my team is the energy and infrastructure team. We also have a team that deals with corporate commercial matters. We have a financial institutions and capital markets team. And also we have a disputes team if things go wrong. We provide commercial, innovative legal solutions. We're here to assist our clients throughout the whole life cycle of various projects. And so if you come to our firm, we're able to provide a one-stop shop in terms of all the commercial and corporate legal advice and assistance that you may require. You can find more details about our firm on our website, www.bentiential.com. My email address is eashun, EASHUN, @bentiential.com, and you can contact me via email. But as I said, you can find all the information on our website and also our LinkedIn platform as well, and Facebook as well. So it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to be on the panel today, engage with our audience on, the legal processes required for an effective due diligence and other matters also that are important in the real estate sector. So thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much to you, and also thank you very much, Afrakuma, for joining us today for the real estate session. We are grateful, and it's a pleasure to moderate today's session. At this point, I'll hand over to Staniel to take over. Thank you very much, and bye. Okay, all right. Thank you very much to all our audience who joined us today. And it was a great opportunity to moderate today's session. And so if you are not yet in our group, you can join our real estate group, where we have individuals who are already industry players, those who are looking forward to also learn about real estate are all on the platform, and you have the opportunity to learn and also share knowledge as well. So you can just scan the code and then you join automatically. And then secondly, also, you are welcome to next month's edition, which will be on the 15th November. Don't hesitate to register when you see the flyer out. And we are hoping to bring you more in the coming months. Do enjoy your day, and thank you for joining. Bye.